feel very much. Okay. It says my video is starting. It says things like that sometimes.
Issues with my headphones apparently.
Alright, welcome one and all to Gilead's Sketchbook Live. Paint Sketch Sketchbook Live. Whatever. Welcome. I'm going to be selecting some colors here. Yellow oxide. Titanium. Violet. Alright. Sometimes I'm not 100% ready when we start these videos. Apologize. Alright, so I've got a bit of violet and a bit of burnt umber. The violet's a very bright and vibrant color, and the burnt umber is a very dark and dull color. Got a relatively large paintbrush, dipped it in some water. I'm going to mix these two things together to make a purplish sort of gray. It's going to be more purple than anything else, but I don't want it shockingly vividly purple this time. I went over my pencil sketch, which you saw yesterday. I got ready to start working on this and then realized I couldn't find my photo reference. So earlier on I found my photo reference, so I wouldn't have that problem again. This is a picture of Taara the cat. And it was just a pencil sketch, so I went back in with a black marker that was mostly dried up, and it gives an effect very much like a dark smudgy pencil, which was helped by the fact that going over it with a marker smudged my pencil. lines, so it looked very much like a smudgy pencil drawing. So alright, just filling in the whole background with a color. There are some purples in her shadows. Um, that is largely environmental. Um, where she was lying down had a warm yellowish light on her. Um, cast some cool shadows. Alright. Throw down some yellow oxide. Some white. It's possible this tube of paint is going to make a farting noise. I apologize in advance. Get all the way to the bottom. You gotta squeeze it, and sometimes it's, like a ketchup bottle. Alrighty dokie. I'm going to take a small flat. It's about a 1/4 inch brush. Mixing some violet, some yellow, and some white. And making a foreground color here. I don't want this foreground color to be particularly vibrant or interesting. I want it to be a gray. I want it to be a dull kind of color. So I may just go ahead and throw in a bit of blue, which along with the violet, which will might just dull it down. So I'm going to go ahead and throw some more brown in here. Just really kind of make it murky. I wanted the violet from my underpainting, and it will show through. It'll be there. But I don't need it to really dominate this picture. So maybe I would prefer that the color of the table that she's lying on become a little bit, well, it's going to be a gray that leans a little heavier to the blue, to the green. And the reason I went that way is because she's got some warm fur on her belly there, which you don't see much of, but there's a bit of it here. And that fur color is very close to the color I initially started putting down. And I know I want to go, with the fur color. So I had to make a conscious decision to go a little bit non-realistic in the background, if that makes any sense. Well, it's what I did, even if it doesn't make any sense.
Don't you run ahead of me and steal my chair.
didn't obscure my signature entirely when I just went over it like that. But I don't care if it does, obviously, because I can re-sign it. But sometimes I'm anxious to go ahead and put my signature on something that is going to get posted on the internet, just so nobody comes along and says, "Oh, it's an orphaned work. It was out there without anybody's signature on it." This particular work is not something I'm really afraid of somebody, you know, stealing and therefore getting my copyright on painting of a cat. It's just a practice that I think I should get into. Be more conscious of that sort of thing. Putting a bit more white into the mix so that I have a lighter colored gray up here. This side of her head over here is in the shade, and so it's darker. So I want the background behind her to be lighter. That's what that's about. This is very close to the color that I was going to have for her belly fur. So it's alright if it's in the background up here because it's not near her belly. So no trouble with that one. You notice I didn't stir everything together and come up with one color and fill in the background with one color. Is it wrong to do such a thing? Wrong is a subjective word. It's more interesting if you don't do that. I just moved my microphone closer. Be interested to know if that changed the sound quality at all. It's an external microphone I'm using instead of the microphone on my webcam, which apparently is a bit on the weak side. So it requires that one extra thing that I've got to do, but if it gets the job done, that's fine. I'll do it. if you were to zoom in on this photo of my cat, there's just millions of tiny little hairs. That's, the whole thing you're drawing is just millions of tiny little hairs. And that's not what I want to paint. I mean, it would be very impressive if I could do that, but and there are some painters who do it fine. They're they're good. They're good at what they do. Um, that is just not how I want to live my life. I don't want to do that. I want to uh, capture this look with brushstrokes, with paint, not with. Gosh, I lost my thread. I want to use the paint and my brush to give the effect. I don't want to uh, bully my brush and my paint into replicating uh, a cat in every detail. Just making a genetic copy of a cat on this piece of paper is not my aim. But I sure would like it if I hadn't already said who this was. If Stellar could come home, look at it, and go, "Oh, it's Taara." That would be awesome. If she said, "I don't know which one it is, but it's one of the current batch of kittens," that would still be awesome because they do all look very much alike, and so wouldn't be particularly disturbing if you couldn't tell which one it was. Stellar and Sharon and Kevin are here. Hello, everybody. Um, so while that dries for a moment, I'll introduce my tools. I've got a Faber-Castell Pit marker, um, and it's mostly dry, so it leaves kind of shadowy lines. I just wanted the I wanted to be able to go over it uh, with some color without obliterating the drawing. So I use this 1/2 inch soft brush. I'm rinsing it out in a little plastic jar. It's a plastic jar because I'm clumsy. I'll knock it over at some point, and it'll just be less of a disaster if it's not glass. And I've done all the rest of it with this 1/4 inch flat brush. When I took the photo, it was mostly because I was working on a project and she got up on the table and laid down across my keyboard and went to sleep. And it was very, very helpful in accomplishing what I was trying to accomplish. So I took her picture. So she's paying me back. Hi, Torty.
Okay. My typing showed up.
Yeah. She looked a little perplexed by all that. Kind of like, hey, what's this? could most likely feel the moisture um, through the bottoms of her little paws when she stepped on the painting, even though it's primarily dry. Um, not not 100%, and we have heard somewhat recently that humans actually cannot feel moisture. You cannot feel the sensation of wet. You think you do, but what you're actually feeling is changes in temperature and texture and movement. So, like uh, somebody poured water down your back, you would experience that as a temperature. You would experience the movement of it as it flowed down your back. Um, the smoothness of it, but you wouldn't really detect it as moisture. And the proof of that is in the fact that sometimes you will engage with some water that is actually the same temperature as your body, and you'll you'll not be aware that you're touching the water. Um, you have to you have to look at it and go, oh, I just put my hand down in a puddle of water and I didn't even know. And that's because you're not actually capable of sensing wetness. But other animals apparently are quite able to sense wetness. Oh, good. So, what's Torty helping you with?
Killing monsters.
Oh, killing monsters. That's good. We can all rest easy. Okay. I don't have any black on my palette as such. I had the black in the pen. No, Torty. No,
Forty.
Torty.
You're gonna let me kill monsters.
Oh, you're. Oh, now you've got paint on yourself. Ah!
Hang on.
She's got paint on the inside of her back thigh.
Oh. Okay. Let's get a washcloth. Come here. Which side, you know?
Right.
Okay.
More than the other. Stellar's gonna wash her up. So when I come in and reinforce these stripes, I'm doing so with a purplish, bluish,
She didn't like that at all.
brownish. Yeah, I bet she didn't. Did not like that one bit. Okay, that's gotten that done mostly. Oh yeah, Gil, go look for comments. Yeah, Kevin says, "Why aren't you painting me?" As in, what Torty said. Yes, I will be painting Torty at some point. We can all rest assured. I suppose Torty cannot rest assured. The paper wrinkled right here, and that'll mostly flatten out over time, but it's causing visual impairments right now because it's catching highlights, it's casting a shadow. But I put down some blue gray uh, to differentiate between the table and her face. Alright, I'm going to use this little brush now. Not to be too technical, but it's a little brush. And it was cheap. I found them on Amazon for like $10 for a 20 pack or something. They're and they came in a variety of sizes, shapes. So even if they're not very good, um, it's not a disaster if I just use one once and throw it away. Um, there's a variety of opinions that you will encounter, which are mutually exclusive and all of them correct. Um, but the opinions will be absolutely spend no limit of money and get the best brush humanly possible. Uh, take obsessive good care of the brush. And keep them for a lifetime. Um, and then there's the other guy that's going to say, just buy the cheapest ones you can get that still work and use it once and throw it away. There's a fantasy artist by the name of Boris Vallejo. He's a big name in fantasy art. He's more on the, I don't want to speak for him, but he did publish a book about his art techniques, and uh, it was more of the uh, use what works, toss it kind of persuasion. Don't get hung up about it. My personal opinion is I have to use what I have. And if I have to buy something, I have to buy something I can afford, which is nothing. So my art supplies have to be the cost of my art supplies have to be as close to nothing as can be arranged. And so when people offer me secondhand stuff, I take it. When when I find stuff on a serious discount, even though it's possibly not the greatest, I take it. Should you do that? No. You should do what you want. The reason this isn't working very well is because there's one or two little hairs on this brush that are sticking out and are not doing what the rest of the brush is trying to do. So you have it sticking out, and you know, the brush you're trying to use is back here, and there's this little hair up ahead, and it curls and flicks and goes all over and makes a little mess for you. That's what you get for using cheap brushes. Another thing, arguably, is don't do the exact same brushstroke all the time. If you've done a lot of it by doing this, uh, get somewhere by doing that. Um, and, come back around, do something like this. Just try to get some variation and try not to get this mechanical repetition where it just looks like you know, cogs of a machine or something. not going to get in there and do every little hair. Just not going to do it. But a couple places where you can see a little hair sticking up off of her paw as her wrist turns like that. Um, that gives you a very strong impression um, that I have in fact drawn every single little hair on this animal's body, which I have not. And so it really helps to do a few here and there and then stop. Stopping is a trick. I talked about brushes getting little furs flying off and messes you up. This is a relatively nice brush, very long, skinny liner brush. It's great for doing lines, as it were. And it was getting kind of blown out and fluffy. Um, a little tip: Simple Green, which is a household detergent that you can find, at Fry's or anywhere. Um, it's a green liquid. Um, that will get paint out of your brush better than any other material on the market. If you've ruined your brush, you've left paint in it, and it's dry and hard, before throwing it away, just go ahead and put it bristle side down in a little jar with some Simple Green in the bottom. Worst thing that happens is you ruined your brush, which you've already done. And So a little bit of Simple Green to clean your brushes as much as possible, and then a little bit of dish detergent or hand soap, actually, some soap, um, and just kind of work it into the bristles to condition it, to straighten the bristles out and get it straight together. And you might save your brush. That line was too thick, but that paint was already dry enough that I could just grab a paper towel, put a little water on it, wipe it right out. Don't worry if it skips a little bit, it does that in your eye anyway. If I'm gonna do any whiskers over here, um, they're in shadow, so I've got to use a darker paint. She's mostly lying on them. I don't really have to do much, but pick up a little bit more of my violet. Come back and let's do the eye. A little bit on her nose. I'll do my signature if it's going to work. If it's not, I'm just going to do it with a pen. I don't care. That is a cat. And Victor's here. Howdy, Victor. Alright, now. Peel off this tape. Dragged my tape over, it stuck to the back of my brush and pulled my brush out of my water. This is how you get the catastrophic sort of mess that's really, really funny when it's in a movie about somebody else. I love the effect when you peel the tape away and it feels almost like a glossy color print of a photograph. Yeah, it's really a nice effect. The paper is a little bit wrinkly, but as the paint dried, it pretty much pulled itself together and looks really nice. Yesterday we worked on this one. I pulled my stunt with the dried up marker here. It's actually the same marker, it would just got increasingly dry, and I used it some more right here and right here. So we've got those to look forward to. We did this one yesterday and I really, really like it. all except this is really out of keeping with the concept here. 'Cause these are supposed to be do it, leave it alone kind of paintings, but there's no rules. Um, this side of her body, her face, is in shadow, and yet um, it's sort of faded into the light on that side, and it should fade into shadow over there. So I wanted to do that. There was just a little too much muddle to the middle. All right. A few years ago, I had a practice that I should have kept up. Why I did not keep it up, I don't know. But I didn't. And my practice was that I would get up and first thing I was still sign painting, um, but before leaving the house, I would get out a little sheet of paper, scrap of cardboard, anything, and I would paint a still life, and I would give myself exactly 30 minutes to do it. Um, so my still life could be my mouse, and I would just set it down, and I would do this little painting, and I set a timer, and for 30 minutes, and the discipline was when the timer goes ding, you stop. You don't get that one last thing. One last. Oh, it's just I've almost one. No, the discipline was just stop, and it was a really good painting practice. My painting moved forward uh, in the time that I was doing that. Um, don't know how many of them I did. Couple hundred. Uh, most of which I've thrown away. I mean, they were not great paintings, um, and a lot of them were on like crap pieces of paper, and they wrinkled, and but it was a very good uh, exercise. Um, Another one I did that I didn't do nearly as much of or as steadily, but I made a file, and we're talking now of paper, magazine cutouts and things. Um, but it was a file of facial expressions and also facial parts. So I did a stack of noses and eyes and lips and ears and hands. I did a bunch of hands, but I also did a bunch of faces of somebody, usually some entertainer, so somebody yelling into a microphone or screaming in a horror flick or something like this. And again, those were not paintings of any great significance. They were not something I could sell. I did try, and they were not something that well, I just kept tripping over. I was. What do you do with like 100 little paintings, because those I did on little pieces of wood, and yeah, so I wound up throwing most of those away. Anyways, both of those things were very, very good daily practice, but um, in many ways, the best part of the practice was that 30-minute timer. Um, this time I had an hour-long timer. Did more of a painting than I usually did back then, but nevertheless, good practice. Sharon says yesterday was your blue period. Yes, um, and that'll be as Picasso as you ever see me get. If I get any more Picasso, um, please feel free to shoot me. Um, so that's that. And tomorrow we'll do something completely different. Assuming we're here tomorrow. There's uh, a 1% chance of a percent chance that I'll be at work tomorrow, but I don't know. That's if they call me. I have no control. Okay. Um, have a great night, everybody. Thank you for coming. Bye bye.